University of Alabama's Nick Saban, who is a legend and has seen more football than you or I have ever seen in our lifetimes, just mentioned in a quote, and I saw this on ESPN, that there are no longer student athletes. He's right. With the NIL and the transfer portal, who would want to go to a college to learn about agriculture or finances or social sciences or whatever when you can get paid? Oh, sorry. I'll jump into that later. But actually, that's exactly what's been happening for a long time, although it was never explicitly proven. There you go. But it's been true, man. So all I can just tell you is that now that college football, or college basketball, college sports have opened up to where the athletes, mostly the same skin color as the person speaking to you right now, are being heavily recruited by powerful conferences and universities to play for the school. It's no reason that what Coach Saban said is a lie. There's no reason why it's a lie. It's very well true. And it's one of the things we often tell ourselves here in America that doesn't really quite hold up: equality and all the rest of the other fair play, fairness, and now student athlete. These are all, I guess I can say, misnomers that no longer apply in our society, our changing society, the world of the 21st century. Why? Because you can't let a little profit get in your way, right? I mean, think about it. The University of Nevada, Las Vegas was one of the best basketball programs in the late 70s to late 80s. And not just local players from this area in LA played or went to UNLV to play basketball and did quite well, but you have players from all over that want to go play for Jerry Tarkanian. And yet, when the NCAA nailed him for charges of, whatever you can Google it, find out what they charged him with, they really put UNLV in almost a death spiral, I guess. The same thing happened with Southern Methodist University, right? Their situation with recruits and boosters and all the rest. So much so that it caused the death of the Southwestern Conference. We talk about integrity in football and other sports, and the NCAA decided that the Southwestern Conference was too corrupt. Basically, it was all the schools in Texas, some that make up the now Big 12, except for Texas and Oklahoma, who are now the SEC. And now they just simply dissolved that conference till it was basically nothing. And we can go down the line, we can do a research, we can find that other improprieties have happened with conferences and universities and how they turned into a tragic end, because we often emphasize as a society that universities are for student athletes. You can become a student as well as an athlete. And now that we find out with the transfer portal and NIL, that's not possible anymore. But I am saying this, and I'm going to make this argument and see if you agree with me. You may not agree. I think you will definitely disagree with me. But if society were a little bit better to where these young men have to go for finances, because let's face it, that's all this are, finances, then there'll be no reason to have a transfer portal or NIL, because these young men would be dedicated to that one university. It would sign a letter of intent, and it would stay there for all the 4 years, except they want to leave early, and it'd be up to them. But society being what it is, and the unwritten rule of the haves and have-nots often come into play, even in the same college sports that we look at. For example, the one glaring example of that would be the Pacific 12 Conference, the Pac 12, right? All the university presidents and their leader, I would say chancellor or their organizer, the top executive, let's say the top executive there, all they had to do was come up with a TV contract or a media contract that would guarantee them to be broadcast as many times as possible. But in the case of Western sports, and I live in LA, so you know it's always an issue with all the major universities out here, is that you can only show them at certain times due to the 3 hour difference from New York, where has always been the problem. In fact, that's why UCLA basketball and USC football suffered in the 80s, because the major networks decided, hey, guess what? We can run this between the East Coast schools or in the South schools in the South, and we had to wait for USC, UCLA, San Diego State, whoever is up there, right? We have to wait for these schools, and they weren't waiting. So you had a full day of college football, a full day of college basketball, and the West Coast schools will all be the ones suffering, even now. But it's all because of the pursuit of money. Now, we can say that the young men who decide to transfer to university 1 year are basically just doing what they see from media companies and television networks. It's all the pursuit of money. So you're going to sit here and tell me that CBS, who for years covered the Southeastern Conference and was very successful at it, all of a sudden, when it was time for TV contracts to be renewed, that they didn't have a right to go after the Big Ten and have a partnership with them? And say if you're a young man, if you're playing in some university that's not associated with the Big Ten, even in a former Pac-12 school that's moving to the Big Ten, you're not going to tell me that that young man's going to see an opportunity to play more, to see if his name's going to be in lights and transfer. You're not going to be Caleb Williams, who decided to play at Oklahoma 1 year, transfer to USC, and now, at the time of this recording, could be the #1 draft in the NFL. You don't see payday coming? The same way payday is coming for all the major networks and streaming channels. I'm just trying to give a dose of reality here. The young men are only emulating what we present to them. So if the networks are out for money and they're out to get the best deals possible, because it is a business, and nothing wrong with that, but you can't fault young men who see a business at, let's say, the University of Texas in Waxahachie, sorry if I said that wrong, or University of Texas in Plano, and all of a sudden now they want to go to University of Texas at Austin, and they feel it's a better idea to transfer there, and you're a top 4 player in the state of Texas, and you might as well just go there to get exposure. You do that. Nothing wrong with doing that under these certain guidelines and rules. So it's not enough to be down on these young men or say these young men are doing anything wrong, because guess what? Again, they're following the example of the media companies, the people who meet in New York, who set these board meetings, who conduct business, sign contracts with these conferences and say, let's roll, let's go. I'm going to give you one major example, and I think this major example is very, very apropos to this conversation. The Big East Conference in basketball, the original Big East Conference in basketball, with Georgetown, Syracuse, and all the rest, didn't really take off until CBS started covering the games in the 1980s. Then we had, again, the schools I just mentioned, Georgetown, Syracuse, Seton Hall, and all the rest. But the Big East, without that backing from a major network, which I'm sure led to other executive heads thinking, hey, CBS kind of backed the network. Well, let's get a conference of our own and back that up, right? But the Big East actually got more traction, more well, and did well because of the success of the conference and the conference being shown almost every Saturday on television, especially CBS. So again, it's a business. It's always been a business. And the young men who are now playing for these universities that will be seen over and over again, the Big Ten, the SEC, and man, I don't even know, maybe the Big 12. I don't know who else is out there. But that's who we're going to talk about for the rest of this year and hopefully beyond until the other conferences realize we need to get it right. And for the Pac-12 that was simply decimated down to two schools, both Oregon State and Washington State, bruh, don't know what to tell you. It's all a business, and if you're not winning, guess what? You're not grinning. So, just wanted to share that with you. Hope each and every one of you is doing well. I did not put this on a sports review channel, or I just might, you never know. But if it is on sports review channel or my regular channel, please continue to subscribe to both. Check out all the great content that will be featured here or is featured here. And I do thank you for your time. I do thank you for at least hearing me rant a little bit. But again, click the banner, click the subscribe button if you like what you see, and hoping each and every one of you is doing well. Until that next time, take care.